Hello, and a very good afternoon to all our participants. I hope everybody is staying safe and doing well. My name is Miza Mazlan, and I am the Marketing and Communications Manager for the British Malaysian Chamber of Commerce, and I will be your MC for the day. Welcome to this webinar organized by the BMCC and in collaboration with Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia, entitled SME Financing Emerging from COVID-19 Pandemic and Beyond. As we move into the post-pandemic phase, facilitating the revival of SMEs remains a high priority for the country. Therefore, a holistic and systematic approach to financing is required to address SMEs' needs, from working capital to capital expenditure requirements. This webinar aims to indulge and bring to light the opportunities for SME financing and best business practices to maneuver through the pandemic and beyond. Without further ado, we'll kickstart with the first speaking session of the day. I would like to invite Mr. Raj Tatavarty, the Managing Director, Head of Business Banking from Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia. He has over 20 years of experience as an SME expert involved in strategy design, launch of new products, managing credit and operational risk, up to overseeing the business. And he is also leading the initiative to make banking simple and accessible for SMEs. Today, he will talk about the services Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia has for SMEs. Mr. Raj, I pass the floor to you.
Thank you. A very warm good afternoon to everyone, and thanks a lot for joining this session. First of all, before I start with a brief about Standard Chartered Bank, I would want to express my deep sense of deep appreciation for the members at BMCC, our co-collaborators for this event, and the fellow panelists who will be talking about different digital initiatives, different options of SME financing as we move along the webinar session today. My sincere thanks to all of you. With respect to Standard Chartered Bank, some of you might know, but it gives me great pleasure to share that Standard Chartered is the first bank in Malaysia. We have been here for more than 145 years, serving the customers both on the individual side, SME side, as well as on the corporate side. With respect to SMEs, we have been in this business for more than a decade, addressing all their needs, right from the financing need to the transactional needs to their import-export needs, their digital needs, which has been the most important need over the last 2-3 years as we entered into pandemic in 2020. So we have been serving our customers on all these fronts. Just to give a brief sense, in Standard Chartered Bank, we cover SMEs across the spectrum. So we start with small micro enterprises to small as well as medium, depending on the size of the company. And the way we serve them is dependent on their needs. So if you ask most of the SMEs and who have been practitioners here, who are business owners themselves, who are participating in this webinar today, you will know that there are broadly 3 or 4 kinds of needs which an SME will have. The first and foremost important thing is financing, because SMEs, there is no dearth of growth opportunities for SMEs to grow. The only thing which is sometimes holding them back is that timely delivery of finance. So on the financing is one of the important needs. Second thing is the whole part on the transactional enablement, be it on the payment or collections, to use the bank account both digitally as well as offline, more so digitally these days, in terms of receiving the collections as well as making the payments. The payments can be in course of business or making their payroll. That is the second most important requirement of SMEs. The third one is respect to the business protection. So when we talk about business protection, what we mean by this is, while the growth happens, there are always some uncertainties which can hit our businesses, which is where the insurance solutions, be it in terms of the group insurance for the employees or a comprehensive insurance for your stock and your manufacturing base, or even the life insurance and the legacy planning for yourself as owners of the company. So that is a third important requirement in terms of business protection. And the fourth one, which is important for exporters and importers, is in terms of FX. Right? If in case they have to hedge their transactions, their payment or collections, what are the cross-border solutions which are available that a bank can provide? So I'm happy to share that across these four factors which we just spoke about, Standard Chartered Bank SME, which we call business banking here, we cover companies from 1 million ringgit or 500,000 ringgit to up to 250 million ringgit in terms of annual sales turnover. Within the spectrum of SMEs we serve, we do address their financing solutions. Again, within financing solutions, depending on the size of the company, some of the companies might require a simple term loan, which can be for 5 years or 7 years, which is backed by SJPP and CGC. We have one of the panel speakers today from SJPP who will cover more on the schemes offered by SJPP, and we partner with them to extend finance to SMEs to support them. So that is on the financing part in the form of term loans. If the company is looking for trade solutions, which is in terms of invoice financing or LCs or BGs, we do offer that also. We do recognize that there is a requirement to increase the financial literacy for some of the SMEs who are increasing in size in terms of growth. We do also do conduct awareness sessions on trade. For example, how do you submit a letter of credit application or a bank guarantee? How can you save your interest expense by moving from pure term loan to going for invoice financing, LCs or BGs? We do conduct those sessions also, and in fact we are in touch with SME Corporation again, who is also one of the panel speakers incidentally today, to see what are the financial literacy sessions we can do to support SMEs. The third most important thing is on the digital side. We have cutting edge, one of the best, and which is an award-winning internet platform called Straight to Bank, where SMEs can do a couple of things. Like I said, the collections and payments is what they can conduct through their mobile app, which is what most of the banks might also have. But there is one more thing which is very peculiar and special about the S2B is you can also do your trade transactions through your S2B. You need not come to the branch to submit all the documents, especially during the pandemic. You don't want to get exposed to too many crowded places. So where you can do your letter of credit, bank guarantee, BA, etc. through our straight to bank application. So we can cover that in the future sessions later. But at this point of time, it gives me pleasure to say that digital is one of our cornerstones in terms of servicing our SME customers. Last but not the least, over the last 2 years, we have been recognized by SJPP and CGC both as one of the top FIs who has been helping SMEs in terms of financing as well as on the digital services. So as we move towards the webinar, I'm happy to take questions on what are the different ways we can help you in terms of SME financing. With that, I hand it back to Mazlan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raj. Thank you, Mr. Raj, for that one. Now let's move on to the second speaking session of the day. I would like to invite Puan Masliza Zainal Abidin, the Head of Marketing from Syarikat Jaminan Pembiayaan Perniagaan, SJPP. With 20 years of experience in strategic consultancy, financial analysis, and project management, now she's leading the charge to bring awareness of the government guarantee schemes to the SME community. And today, she's going to share with all of us on the Pemulih government guarantee schemes for Malaysian companies. Puan Masliza, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Encik Rizal. Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody is feeling well, especially in this lovely Thursday afternoon. Yeah? My name is Masliza Zainal Abidin, and I am from SJPP, which is Syarikat Jaminan Pembiayaan Perniagaan Berhad. We are actually a company that was formed by the government and owned under the purview of Ministry of Finance since 2009. And our role is basically to administer and manage the government guarantee schemes that the government has implemented, especially during times of needs, during economic crisis, and very recently, as you know, the C word, Covid-19 crisis. So we have been very busy in working together in collaboration with all the financial institutions in Malaysia so that these financial institutions are able to provide to you the credit facilities that you need. Okay. So first of all, let me firstly thank the coordinating team as well as the organizer, British Malaysian Chambers of Commerce as well as Standard Chartered Bank for inviting SGPP so that we are able to use this opportunity to create awareness and share the information with you today. For this session, I have about 10 minutes. So I usually have a lot to say, but I think for this session, let's keep it simple. Let's keep it more of key points for you to understand about how Pemulih Government Guarantee Scheme is available for you to use so that you are able to obtain the credit facilities that you need, especially during this time when you need to recover from your business. So in this 10 minutes, I hope I can keep it short, but I'm just going to go straight into how government guarantee schemes actually work. So please don't get the name wrong. Sometimes people think government guarantee means government will guarantee you will get the loan. So that's not what it means. So I will show you the government guarantee application process, the overall process actually. And I'm going to share with you the features of Pemulih government guarantee schemes so that you are able to identify and understand in which particular areas that would be of interest and of need to you. And then let's look into the eligibility, which I believe the audience today are mostly or definitely will be eligible under this government program. And just a little bit of contact details. And I believe after this, then we'll have some Q&A session as well during the analyst session. Okay, so that being said, let us go to the next slide. So generally, how does government guarantee scheme works? So I'm going to show you an overview. So I'm sure that a lot of you are now in the position whereby one, you will need financing because the economy is opening up. So you will need financing either to take on new projects or to be able to deliver your services as well as your goods to your customers, or even some certain projects that was put on hold because of the MCO, because of the restrictions and lockdowns and so forth. You want to now restart your business. So you are actually in a position whereby you will definitely need funding. Now, most SMEs, they will either use their own money or in terms of their own actual funds, or the next step is for them to actually consider getting funding from other types of lending institutions. So for example, in the most commonly is still the banks. So what you do is you will go to the banks. This is a normal process. So you still go to the banks and speak to your bankers to talk more about what you need. So for example, if it's delivery for a contract, you probably need contract financing. Or if you want to purchase any particular machinery in order for you to automate, digitalize your processes, you also maybe ask for a term loan and so forth. So you go to the banks. They are still the money lenders in this case. So when you go to the banks, of course, if you have experience in getting loans from the banks, they'll be asking for a lot of documentation, especially if you are a new customer. If you're an existing customer, usually your banks will already have some understanding of your business and some validation of your business as well. So for that particular funding that you need, provide them with the required documentation. This could be in terms of like how I mentioned the contract financing. You actually provide the contracts for them to actually view. So for example, if you want to purchase a machinery, you will show them in terms of the purchase order or the invoice or the discussions that you have had with the vendors, if let's say you are developing a new equipment. So you speak to them and you provide the documents to them. Now, what happens is that the banks will go through their normal risk assessment process. So they will still review it. So review requirement, they will also ask you things, for example, like cash flow projection, of course, your audited accounts, your income tax returns, bank statements, and so forth, where relevant. They will review it and they do their own internal management review. So after that's done, once they feel that this is a good candidate, however, you may be lacking in terms of it could be collateral issues. So, or maybe the market condition is very weak. So what the banks will do is then put the submission to SGPP. So you don't have to put in another submission to SGPP. It's done via the bank. So the banks will actually submit the application to us, saying that, okay, this company A is a very good candidate. This is their plans. This is the facility that we're going to provide for them and so forth. And then SGPP can you guarantee? So the banks will do the submission to us. We will review the application, checking for some general criteria as well. And once it's been approved, we will revert back to the bank to say, okay, on behalf of the government, we will actually guarantee for you to actually provide the credit facility to company A. So we will be communicating very closely with the banks. And once that is done, then the banks, once they receive the approval for that, they will start the disbursement process with your company. So that's overall how it works, yeah? So what happens after that? So once the loan has been disbursed to you, you continue to make your monthly installments. You continue to pay the interest, which is also charged by the bank, but you also will be required to pay a guarantee fee. Now, this guarantee fee is actually just a very, if I can say, we are the lowest in the market actually. So this guarantee fee is basically a small cost for you, in consideration that without government guarantee schemes, a lot of SMEs may not be able to get the credit facilities that they need. Yeah. Okay, so that's the overall view of government guarantee schemes. Now let us talk about Pemulih Government Guarantee Scheme, which is our latest scheme that the government has announced. They announced it in the Pemulih package late last year, and it was also enhanced and additional allocation was given in budget 2022. Now, Pemulih Government Guarantee Scheme, the main objective is actually now to further work together with the banks to provide the credit facilities that you will need, especially during this recovery time. As you emerge from, maybe you have had temporary closure, or maybe you have had a lot of setbacks, and now you need to restart and revitalize your business. That is why Pemulih Government Guarantee Scheme was established with two main features. Yeah. So let's talk about one side that you can see on the screen. Let's talk about companies, if let's say this is for you, companies that have had either repayment assistance before this. Yeah. So during the last time, during COVID period, you have taken moratorium, for example, you have taken some sort of restructuring by your individual banks. It could be any banks that you are going through. So you have actually undergone that. Then when you actually want to revitalize your business, you find it hard for the bankers to give you additional funding, which is because of the history that you have. That means the existing loans, you already have, it has got to be restructured. Now getting additional funding is usually very hard for you. So Pemulih Government Guarantee Scheme is for that actually. Number one is actually to help you get additional working capital. It's at the bottom of my page. Yeah? So it's actually to get that additional working capital, so that even though you had a little bit of history on restructuring, or a little bit history on moratorium, then using Pemulih Government Guarantee Schemes may enable you to be able to get additional working capital from the banks. And this is for a tenure of about 10 years, and 80% of the term loan or of the term financing that's provided to you will be guaranteed under SGPP. Now, similarly, for those that have taken repayment assistance, or even for those companies that has existing loans, Pemulih Government Guarantee Schemes also allows you to speak to your bankers, to talk about the existing loans that you have. So with the existing loans that you have, now that you are in recovery, you may need some further help, because we're not sure how fast things are going to rebound. So you are able to actually speak to your bankers to see whether could you restructure your existing loan. And this also involves some features like the moratorium, features like extending as well your financial installment payments, so that you are able to have lesser financial obligation, so that you can concentrate on, again, going towards activities that can help you recover your business. So this is one set of the features of PGGS that's available. Now, if I go to the next set of features under PGGS, these are for companies that are doing well. Yes, there are a lot of companies that also that did well even during COVID. Yeah. So for those that are simply searching for new financing, for the same thing, to get new customers, to be able to deliver new projects and so forth, you're also able to use Pemulih Government Guarantee Scheme with financing limit of up to 20 million per companies. And these financial facilities, as you can see on the page here, with a tenure of up to 10 years, and of course with very low guarantee fees. On top of that, because we are still in recovery period, thank you very much to all the participating financial institutions. They have also agreed to be able to provide to you interest of profit rate of not more than BFR or BFR plus 2%. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. On the next slide, let's talk about eligibility. Now, eligibility is very fast and simple in this case. So I think as Mr. Raj mentioned earlier on in his opening remarks, that in terms of the coverage for Standard Chartered and the focus for today are for companies that are with annual revenue of up to 250 million. Yes, it is the same target group as PGGS as well. Not only that, very recently, the Pemulih Government Guarantee Scheme has been also enhanced to also allow for companies that are bigger than SMEs. This is what we call the mid-tier or mid-sized companies. Yeah, companies that don't fall under the SME definition, but these are companies with annual revenue of not more than 500 million per year. Now, all types of industries or sectors are eligible under this scheme. So, for example, if some of you are asking, you from technology sector or you from property sector, construction, these are, we do not have any restrictions in terms of the PGGS, the Government Guarantee Scheme. Okay, so since this is a Malaysian government initiative, so therefore it is for Malaysian-owned companies. So as long as your company is at least owned 51% owned by Malaysians, majority owned by Malaysians, then you will be eligible. Okay, so the other requirements are on the board as well. I do want to also mention that entities that are public listed, this is main board listing, are not eligible. So main board listed companies and the subsidiary of the main board listed companies are not eligible. But if you're second board listed, then you are eligible. Companies that are related to the government, they are not eligible because, well, it's a government guarantee. Why would a government guarantee be used to guarantee a government company, right? So these are just the entities that are excluded from the government guarantee scheme. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So I think we are basically towards my last slide. So if I can wrap this up, what do you do next? So now that you're actually in this webinar, please get on hold of the bank's Standard Chartered in this case. Please get hold of the bankers and speak to them about your particular needs and how PGGS can be used to be able for you to get the credit facility that you need. If you have any questions, feel free to also go to our website, www.hjpp.com, or even email us or call us. We'll be able to also help to try and clarify your question. I also do want to mention that, yes, Standard Chartered has been a very active partner with us for so very many years. We have very close working relationship with them as well. And with that, I'd like to wish all of you, it's still February, still start of the year, I'd like to wish all of you success in the coming year and hope everyone will stay safe soon. Thank you very much. So I'll send over the session back to Encik Mizan.
Thank you, Mas Liza. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Mizan.
Now, before we begin the panel discussion, I would like to remind you that if you have any questions, please send them to the Q&A chat feature at the bottom of your screen. I believe we have some questions coming in, and the moderator and speakers will attempt to address your questions during the Q&A session if time permits. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, now we will proceed to the panel discussion. Firstly, I would like to introduce the moderator of the session, Mr. Woon Siu Hung, the Executive Director, Head of Medium Enterprises from Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia. He has more than 24 years of experience in commercial and enterprise banking, where he was instrumental in developing digital and solar ecosystems. With Mr. Raj and Puan Mas Liza joining the panel session as well, I would like to briefly introduce the three other speakers who are here with us on the panel discussion today. Introducing the first speaker, Mr. Zarif Chai Abdullah, the Senior Director of Business Advisory and Support Division from SME Corporation Malaysia. He joined SME Corp in 2006. Since then, he has been directly involved in financial and technological support programs for local SMEs on various levels, providing effective advisory to nurture competitive, innovative, and resilient SMEs. Currently, his focus shifts to business improvement activities, such as capacity and capability building, alternative financing, and investment capitalization. Next on the speaker is Mr. Aizat Rahim, the Managing Director of Shopee, a B2B e-commerce solution provider for the manufacturing, wholesale, and distribution businesses, where it is revolutionizing the management process for procurement, inventory, credit financing, and warehousing. He is also the Managing Partner of Finex Capital, a digital transformation advisory company and a strong advocate for entrepreneurship. Lastly on the panel is Mr. Koh Chuan Zhen, the Group Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Plus Energy Holding, the nation's leading clean energy solution provider. He is recognized as one of the young entrepreneur leaders who are shaping Asia's future with his leadership, passion, and in-depth knowledge of clean energy. Now that the introductions are out of the way, I hand over the floor to our moderator, Mr. Woon, to conduct the panel discussion.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, BMCC, Mizan, for having us here to have this session, and to everyone here attending, a very good afternoon. And for today's session, we have 4 key partners with SCB, or Standard Chartered, having us join us here for the panel discussion. And the panelists will be also participated with my business banking head, Raj. And for the session today, we just like to make some discussion points on how the SMEs have actually emerged from the COVID-19 pandemic, and how are we going to take the next step further. Now, to have this conversation taken further into the evening, I would just like to make some obvious point that the government has taken heed of the challenges faced by the SMEs over the last 2 years, from the onset of the pandemic, and over the last 24 months, we have seen many initiatives and forms of support being given by the government. Now, in this period, can we just find out and have some sharing by Mr. Chai from SME Corp? What do you see as the most relevant measures that has been taken over this period? And what do you see has benefited the SMEs? Mr. Chai?
Yeah, thank you, Woon. I think I thought we're gonna do a 3-minute introduction.
My apologies. Yeah. And before we do that, right, I'd like to just invite we have actually heard from Raj and Puan Masliza a while ago. Yeah, I got too excited to hear from the 5 panelists because I've been seeing questions coming in from all over. And so before we start that, right, can we have Mr. Chai to start with a quick introduction of himself, and followed by Mr. Ko and Aizat. Yeah, sorry, my apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Woon. I think if BMCC can help play my slide. I think it's not about me, but actually more about SME Corporation Malaysia, or we like to call ourselves as SME Corp SME Corp Malaysia. First of all, thank you for the invitation from BMCC. I think it's very timely and good to share with everyone here on this SME financing, especially we have been living under the COVID-19 pandemic for 2 years already, and this is the 3rd year counting, and everyone is affected, especially the small businesses, the small and medium enterprises. So I think before we start, I think it's good to just share a little bit about SME Corp. Next slide, please. So SME Corp actually is a central coordinating agency under MedEC, or Ministry of Entrepreneurial Development and Cooperatives, that coordinates the implementation of SME development programs across ministry and agencies. So because every ministry and also agency, they will have their own SME program per se. For example, under the Agriculture Ministry, they will have these small businesses running their operation in the agriculture sector, but they are SME. So maybe they will have their own development programs. So SME Corp, as the CCA we call ourselves, Central Coordinating Agency, we will usually coordinate and actually make sure that the development programs are inclusive, covers everyone, and there's no gap in between, and also perhaps reduce the overlapping of functions. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what we do. So our vision, just to quickly share, we wish to be the premier organization in the development of progressive SMEs to enhance wealth creation and social well-being of the nation. So this is very critical. Later, my next slide, you will see the statistic. Why is it important in terms of the social well-being of the nation? And then our mission, of course, is to promote the development of competitive, innovative, and resilient SMEs through effective coordination and provision of business support. So I am from the business support division. So I think today maybe I can share a little bit with everyone here, hopefully, what SME Corp can do to support the SMEs. Everyone in this attended this webinar. Next slide, please. Okay, first thing first, there is a definition of SMEs in Malaysia. Yeah, this is adopted across the ministry and agency in Malaysia. If you are wondering whether you are in the SME category, and then under the SME category you have medium, small, and micro, three category. Whether you are SME or not, you look at this definition. Okay, basically they only look at two thresholds or two criteria, some people call it. For manufacturing sector, if your sales turnover is not more than 50 million a year, or your full-time employee is not more than 200 people, for those in the manufacturing sector, if you fulfill either one of these criteria or threshold, you are an SME. Okay. For services sector and others, because the makeup is a bit different, so they have a different threshold. If your sales turnover is not more than 20 million a year, or your full-time employee not more than 75 people, you are in the SME category. So you are deemed as SME. This is the definition being adopted by the National SME Development Council, chaired by Yang Amat Berhad Prime Minister himself, and has been adopted. So these are the definition of SME. I think it's pretty clear. So you just have to see, okay, my company, am I in the manufacturing sector or am I in the services sector? So if you say you are in the services sector, you just look. I think if the bosses here in this webinar, you would know what is your sales turnover. If you are in the services sector, you're doing less than 20 million. If let's say your sales turnover is 15 million, 15, but your employee is already more than 75, for example, you have 200 employees, you are still considered as an SME by definition, because you fulfill the sales turnover criteria or the threshold, which is less than 20 million. Okay. Vice versa for manufacturing, you only have to fulfill either one, then you are an SME. So it's a very straightforward definition. And then to make it easier for all SME to, during this lockdown period, last time in the past 2 years especially, we have developed an online system for you to get an SME status certificate. All submission is done through online. You can also get an SME status certificate, a digital one, to prove that you are an SME under this definition that I've just shared. Okay, next slide. So how many of us in Malaysia actually are SMEs? So follow the definition that I've just shared earlier. 97.2% establishment, these are formal, means they're registered as a company or sole prop or partnership or limited liability partnership. 97.2% of businesses establishment in Malaysia are SMEs. Okay, so that's why just now in our vision, you saw that we mentioned about the wealth creation and also the wealth distribution. We play a very critical role, SMEs. Okay, so according to the statistic done by Department of Statistics Malaysia, 48%, 1.15 million SMEs currently are in the country, and 78.4% are in the micro category, 20% in the small category, and 1.6 in medium category. Okay, and that makes up to 1.15 million SME. And then if you go by sector, majority 85.5% is in the services sector, 7.4 construction, 5.1% in manufacturing, 1.7 in agriculture, and very minimal, 0.3 in under mining and quarrying. So from that, the two very critical factor that we are looking at SME is, number one, half of our total employment in the country is actually working for an SME. That is 7.3 million. This is the working population. So half of our Malaysia working population, they are actually being employed by an SME. So when you look at these numbers, 7.3 million people employed by the SME means they are bringing home the dinner, putting food on the table to easily 5 or 6 million family or household in the country. So this is a very important statistic that we always share with everyone. Okay, another one is of course the GDP, gross domestic produce. So SME contribute about 38.2% of our country's GDP, and then that is equivalent to more than 500 billion RM, 512.8 billion. Actually, they contribute to the country's economy. So the percentage slightly dropped a bit, but the absolute value has has increased year on year, even during the pandemic. Yeah. Okay. So next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, I think I will just stop here. Basically, I just wanted to share with everyone a brief introduction about SME Corp and who we are and what we do, and also the landscape of SME in the country for everyone's benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chai. It was a very clear briefing to us, on SMEs. How big is this impact to the business community as well as to the overall population of Malaysia in terms of household impact, on the livelihood. Can I now invite Mr. Aizat from Droppy to come forward and share a bit of himself and Droppy?
Can do. Thanks so much. So I'll just go through very quickly about Droppy. All right, thanks so much, everyone. Can everyone see my screen? All good, right? Yeah, so I'll just go through very quickly about Droppy. So my name is Aizat. I'm one of the co-founder for Droppy. So Droppy is a B2B e-commerce platform. Essentially, we work with a lot of multinational companies, manufacturers, wholesalers, and distributors, and even retailers to pretty much help their B2B sales, inventory, and many others as well. We've been fortunate enough to be backed by multiple of international investors like MEFCAP, Y Combinator, and many others as well. So essentially what we do is that since day one, we've been looking towards the micro SME and SME. Why we wanted to do so is because that when we really look into the data, we realize that a lot of these micro entrepreneurs and SMEs, whether they run convenience store, whether they run sundry store, they are generally underserved. And when we look at the total sales that these guys are doing, it's really huge. And it just it fathers us quite a lot on why a lot of the distributors do not actually want to work with these guys, simply because that one of them generally purchase a lot smaller, but when you group them together, it's actually very huge. And that's where we started to work within our Droppy B2B space. How we actually help all these businesses is that we created a complete supply chain network where we consolidate all of the transaction and connects all of the supply chain ecosystem together. So the first one is something that you guys can just Google around. It's a Droppy Open Marketplace. Essentially, this is the platform where a lot of businesses, whether retailers, sundry store, hotel, restaurants, cafe, they will use this platform to not only manage existing suppliers, but also to look for new suppliers and new unique product. Whereas on the flip side, on the distributors and the brand owners, they use this as platform as a lead generation. The second product we created is that it's called Droppy Direct. Essentially, this is almost like an ERP solution. We realized that the existing market product usually only service their internal team members. So for example, when we look at companies like Nestle, they usually have like an ERP solution to manage with their own existing internal teams, accounts, and operations. Where Droppy came about is that we can hook up with their existing ERP so that they can also manage with their external stakeholders. When I say external, these are the likes of the wholesalers, distributors, and even their retailers. Essentially, now with our platform, they are able to have a complete overview of what their business is all about. Yep. Here, we also allow them to work with a lot of their customers privately. They can customize their own catalogs and even integrate with multiple IT partners. The third one, I think this is something that we will be focusing a lot more, is our Droppy Credit, where we help all these manufacturers, distributors, and retailers to pretty much get supply chain financing or even invoice factoring to manage their cash flow better. Whereas we also work with a lot of FI, like Standard Chartered and the rest, to pretty much look into all these SMEs and to automate some of the requirement that they have to support this to support the SMEs and their financing as well. The fourth one, the last one that we built, is Droppy Insights. I think this is something more towards the brand owners. If let's say you're one of the SMEs that actually have you produce your own products, you can look into all our Droppy Insights where we can help you to determine which territory or which area actually have high chances of your customers, new customers that can actually show. Here also we help them to do a bit of a forecasting so that they can manage their purchases a lot better. So far to date, we have more than 100,000 businesses that are using Droppy. I think here you guys can see that all the way from really big guys like Petronas, Nusra, we have Maiden, BAT, and many others as well. But at the end of the day, ultimately our best customer and the customers that we really want to focus more is always the smaller SMEs, the local mom and pop store. These are the ones that actually we see a huge impact using Droppy. Yeah, I think that's pretty much about Droppy. If you have any questions, you can just ask in the Q&A section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aizat. Yeah, I think that was very insightful on how Droppy has actually taken the lead, in the SME community to build up their digital capabilities to take on business and for market building. And I would like to then now invite Mr. Koh from Plus Energy to come forward and just share a bit about himself and Plus Energy. Mr. Koh.
All right, thanks a lot, Mr. Woon. All right, so please allow me to share my slide here. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. So I would like to just do a quick introductions about who we are, Plus Energy. So Plus Energy, yeah, for some of the people here probably heard about Plus Solar before. And actually last year, we just rebrand into Plus Energy. And here I'm going to share with you about what is Plus Energy is doing. All right, so I'm the co-founder of this Plus Energy group as a group CEO, and the other two is my fellows or co-founders. So this year actually we have just turned our company into 10 years, as we just across the 10 years anniversary. So our company vision, right, is to champion the future of sustainable energy, that we like to lead the business and also people to an intelligent and also inventive and also a much cleaner tomorrow. So we are a clean energy company that what we are providing actually is a smart this energy ecosystem. So from what you see here, right, this is the growth of our company, of the different solution and also the services that how we serve the community, which come across with this energy generation with solar technology, energy efficiency with our own proprietary AI IoT software system, as well as the energy storage like battery storage solution there. So in our this smart energy ecosystem, right, which is all this energy source, right, it will part under our this smart energy platform, and then we were able to use our smart energy platform and allow the different form of energy for them to interact with each other. So I think the most common one that everyone would know definitely is about the solar energy. Then definitely come across like residential, commercial, industrial, and also power plants. So let me go further with you guys. So this is some of the solar farm project that we did before, and this is just one of it. So in the past 10 years, actually, we have already built 6 different solar power plants across the whole nation, which is a ground-mounted solar farm, and this is one of it that we've done in this Sungai Petani. So, and this is probably a very familiar building and also a brand for everyone. So yeah, the IKEA building, the shopping complex, right, that you guys visited in KL, in Johor, and also in Penang, is a portion of it is powered by solar, and this solar is designed and built by Plus Energy. So it's roughly about 10% of this IKEA shopping complex in the whole Malaysia actually is all powered by the solar technology which is designed by us. All right. So beside this IKEA shopping complex, actually we also help a lot of other businesses like IOI, IGM, Sunway, Sprizzle, this is Cowan Food, you can name it like this Secret Recipe or Petronas. Yeah, a lot of this company, even though like Sony, yeah, local and also the multinational company, we're helping them to convert a portion of their building energy into solar power. And this is the one that what I mentioned about the proprietary technology that we help for energy efficiency. So for a lot of building, right, they are able to save energy right now, very straightforward and in a really quick way by switching their energy consumption from TMB into solar power. So they are able to take the energy source from TMB into solar power, which solar power right now, I would say, is quite competitive and is even quite cheap, right? But after you switch, let's say X% of your energy source from solar into from TMB into solar. So what's the next? Actually, by utilizing this AI and also the IoT technology, which is our software solution and also our hardware, right? you are able to diagnose and also to collect the energy data of your building. So from there, right, we are helping our clients for them to analyze their building energy consumption and how can they further save their building energy from there, probably through their aircon adjustment, or let's say let their power, this factory production line, the machinery able to communicate with each other, let machine to communicate with machine to lower down energy consumption. And yep, we also launched this rent-to-own solar for residential houses to make it solar really affordable. And this is a portfolio that we have in the whole Malaysia. And last but not least, one more thing is last year actually we just had this collaboration with StanChart, which have this would like to facilitate for all the SME in Malaysia to enjoy sustainable energy through this clean energy and also through sustainable funding from StanChart. And I'll share more about this later on. All right, I'll pass
Thank
it
you,
to
Mr. Koh.
Su.
Thank you, Mr. Koh. It is indeed a pleasure for StanChart to be able to partner Plus Energy and yourself in the endeavor to actually push for sustainability. Now, we have here from all 5 panelists, including the different areas of engagement into the SME community. I will then now come back to the discussion topic for today of how we actually move together with the SMEs as we move out of the pandemic and beyond. Now, to take off, right, I was at the point of observation that we're saying that, the government has taken hit of a lot of challenges faced by the SMEs. And over the last 2 years, I've seen many efforts in various initiatives to support the SMEs get out from the pandemic, from cash flow angle as well as from business continuity. Now, there will be a few questions that I will put the panelists to discuss upon. And there are also questions coming in from the audience. Now, and the participants. Now, we may not be able to cover all the questions in this session, but if we do miss any particular one, we'll make sure the panelist gets back to you through BMCC to respond. And that we can assure you that we will continue to we are always ready to engage, and we can actually take that on specifically to see where we can have that separate conversation after today's session. Now, to start off, right, Mr. Chai, again, I said my apologies for not giving you the chance to introduce yourself and SME Corp. Now, what do you see as the key measures that has been taken over the last 24 months from the government and also from the banks? Yes.
Yeah, I think we keep it lively. I think more interaction with the audience would be better since already we are doing it through webinar. I think for the past 2 years, the most important and key measures is, I believe, the universal moratorium given to all. Doesn't matter if you're businesses, personal, also we give family, all your installments, everything, we give you moratorium, right? There's a reason behind it because just now I shared 1.15, these are all formal businesses, means they already registered with SSM under ROC or ROB. But out there in Malaysia, we have another 30%, we call it the informal sector. They are doing business, but they don't have any company. It could be the day traders, your pasar malam traders. They only have the license from the local authority, and they usually run their business through their personal accounts and all that. So in order to help everyone during this very difficult period, the government, I think the biggest measures that affect everyone is the moratorium for all, the universal moratorium that is given. And of course, until today, there are still moratorium given to these businesses that are very badly affected by the pandemic, especially the lockdown measures, MCO. So they still give this targeted moratorium. I believe all the SME can still talk to their respective bankers. Bank Negara Central Bank has already given the directive that all banks should still continue to provide support to all businesses during this very difficult period. And then, of course, the other measures that help a lot for the business of this is besides the SJPP. I leave it to Mas Liza to share later. Of course, is the we also provide, government also give a wage subsidy across the board, so that hopefully that the company doesn't retrench their people, maintain everyone still on the payroll, because each and every one of them, like I said, is actually we call it the breadwinner of each family. So we don't want to affect disrupt our country, the livelihood of the people so much. So that is the general one. Then of course, we know the 2 years we have SRF, the SME Relief Fund, we have a targeted relief fund, all are given at we call it very low interest rate. Yeah. And then the most recent one under Pemekasa, SME Corp was given a 50 million fund, a very small fund, to provide what we call SME revitalization financing. This started, I think, August last year, implemented through MIDM, one of the DFI in town, where we provide working capital at 3% interest rate. Okay, 3% interest rate with automatic 6 months grace period plus 6 months mora. Means if they got the financing up to maximum of 250,000, they don't have to pay during the first 12 months. So that is another initiative that the government provide to help all these SME, especially we call this year as the recovery year. So SME, when they go and apply for the record smooth, the processing time only takes usually about 2 weeks only, means 14 days. So the company apply, complete documentation within 14 days, they will get the result. So this is how the government support the businesses. Thank you.
Great, Mr. Chai. Now, we hear from all the different angles of financing options that we can have, right, for the SMEs over the last 24 months. Now, I'd just like to take this question to upon Ms. Liza, right? What do you think would be the key things that the applicants or the SMEs have to get ready for when they actually put in the applications?
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Woon. Yes, that's actually quite a common question that I think a lot of SMEs, especially those without experience in trying to get not just credit facility, but also different types of grants or funding. Now, ultimately, when I think, different banks will have different requirements, but they have general requirements. And normally it will all be related to number one in terms of the validity of your business. So this will be in terms of your registration. So either under SSM, so these are under the Companies Act or Partnership Acts and so forth. And all the banks will also require you to at least provide audited accounts. Dealing which also I think they may consider some management accounts, but it's always about audited accounts because those are somewhat verified accounts, yeah. And then they will also ask, depending on the purpose of your financing, then they will ask additional information. So for example, if they probably going to ask you all about your business plans as well as your cash flow projections. Now, this is important for them to be able to understand where the business is going and basically where your sources of income is coming from, which ultimately will lead to how you're going to pay back the credit facility that's given. So it's all about trying to understand and be able to assess a company's ability to repay the credit facility that's given. Of course, for certain things like say it's a contract that you're going to deliver, then they will also want to have a look at your contract financing. So these are the types of additional documentation that's required. But what's important is this: be transparent with your bankers. That means do not withhold any information, because I think if I can say so on behalf of my banking friends, Mr. Stats, Mr. Raj and Mr. Woon, we don't want to make life miserable. I mean, for SGPP, we will also ask for some documentation, which is normally a replica. It's the same documentation that the banks will ask for. But it's not about to make your life difficult. It's about to substantiate your application in order for you to be able to get the credit facility that you need. So those are the key things. Now, what is the downside of not preparing the documentation that's required? The downside is it will cause a delay for you to get the credit facility that you need. So that's where a lot of people sometimes they complain, it's so long, so I couldn't get this, it takes so long for me to get my loan, this and that. But actually, did you provide the full documentation that's required? So sometimes there's also some back and forth that will happen between the money lenders, the banks, or even with the SGPP with the customer, is because the documentation is not enough to support the application.
I understand. And to a very specific question that was raised by one of the participants, is TRF available also for manufacturing sector? Would either Puan Masliza be able to take that question? I believe it says yes, but maybe you can just chip in on that first, then before we continue with the rest of the questions.
Okay, Bank Negara has issued out a lot of different types of packages, and it targets different types of sectors. So, and TRF is one of them, which is the latest one. So if I can recall, TRF is actually for those that are affected usually in the services sector. It's for the services sector. But that doesn't mean that manufacturing does not have any help at all. So you can go to our website. The information not only for TRF, but also for other types of government guarantee schemes that you can use to benefit the manufacturing sector is also available for you. So in the case of if you don't qualify for TRF for whatever reason, even if you're services sector also, or if you're manufacturing sector, then you may consider credit facilities that can be guaranteed under PGGS, which, like I mentioned earlier, all industries are actually under it. So don't be too worried about one particular type of scheme. There are many different schemes that was catered to a lot of different types of affected companies.
Thank you, first, Masliza. And actually, to add on, just to be sure, do consult and reach out to your existing bankers or even Standard Chartered for us to actually take on your queries, because the banks are all willing, all available to help. Share with us, reach out to us, let us answer that question directly, understand your situation, regard of your sector that you're in, so that we can know better how we can actually see it through for you together. Now, to another question related to financing, there was this question on, do we finance as a whole, banks, do we generally give away financing to new setups or those with less than 3 years? Can I put this question to Mr. Raj to take on?
Sure. Thanks, Moon, for that question. And the answer is it's a bit nuanced. It's not a straight yes or no. Yes, it is a bit difficult for less than 3 years business vintage normally to get an immediate loan. However, there are enough and more mitigants which banks consider before extending finance. What are those? There are 3 which I can think of immediately. The first one is, suppose if you are starting a company which has a parent company or a group company, you can take the strength of the group company or the parent company and take finance for the new company which you have started. Normally, this is applicable for mid-sized companies and not so much for small companies. If it is a small company, one of the mitigants which you can provide to the bank is that if that person who is starting a new company has experience in the same or similar nature of business prior to starting that company, also banks do consider extending finance even though it is a new company. The third and the most often used one is, if you are starting a new business, generally we start off with fully cash backed, like 100% FD, etc. Post that, maybe after 1 year or 1.5 years, once bank gets the comfort that the repayment track record is satisfactory, then the FD will be released and you will be given top-up loans based on the past performance. So there are 3 different ways of getting finance from a financial institution if your company is newly formed.
Thank you, Mr. Raj. And Mr. Chai, would you like to add on anything to that? I can see your hands is up.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you,
yeah.
Woon. Actually, I think to add on, if you are less than 3 years, another very good option, of course, is on the alternative financing. I mean, beyond the conventional one, you have your P2P, peer-to-peer financing, you have this crowdsourcing and all that, depending the type of company that you are with. I don't know if Aizat Droppy, is it more than 3 years? How you started, and maybe you can share a little bit. I'm sure it will be a very interesting journey that you guys have.
Can. I think at least on our end, right? I think for most SMEs out there, I think that, like what Mr. Chai mentioned earlier, there are a couple of ways for you to look for funding. I guess it depends on your business by itself. I think the first one was equity crowdfunding. I think this is something that you guys can see is really been approved by Bank Negara. There are 6 or 7 players out there where you can actually raise funds by selling some of your equity portion. Second one is P2P, but P2P generally has a higher interest compared to the conventional loan that you guys can actually take from SJPP, SME Corp, and many others. But this one, because they also understand that your business might have a higher risk, since the interest rate is a lot higher. For Droppy's route, however, we went into a slightly different route. We actually raised from angel investors as well as venture capitalists. So essentially, these are fund managers that manages a lot of institutional funds or some of their limited partners funds. And that's where we actually started off dropping with. And up to today as well, we do get a lot of visits globally. But I guess it all depends on the business, your business kind, right? Like for us, we just wanted to acquire as many customers and provide as many values as possible. If there's any one of you actually curious about that, just ask us over here. I think a lot of us are pretty good in regards to the alternative financing over here. Yeah, thanks.
Hi, Woon. Sorry to interject. Actually, I put up my hand to answer another question live since I just followed through.
Yes, please.
Okay, I think
Go
there's
ahead.
a question. I think ask if what happens if you have a negative shareholder fund. Can you go for financing? I think maybe a lot of banks, the conventional one especially, when you say negative shareholder fund, straight away, I think maybe they'll put you not in their priority list lah. This is the common perception that you have in the market. But actually for SMEs, if you want to go for financing, even if you have a negative shareholder fund, there are a lot of other products or options you can have. One is maybe if you heard about factoring, the invoice financing, the facilities, you can still take it because that one will be based on your project that you manage to secure, especially if your customer is a listed company, very established customer with many years experience, with very good financial track record. Even if your company have a negative shareholder fund, but if you are supplying to these kind of very strong customers, I think most of the bank in town will be willing to come in and give you that kind of facility for you to help you to deliver that particular project or orders that you have received. And then of course the other alternative is of course a negative shareholder fund will become a factor if you need to pay back the money lah. Actually, in a lot of government agency, even SME Corp, we actually do have what we call the assistance in the form of grant. However, grant is mostly used for developmental activities, means you improve your current operation from manually to automate to machine. Then government is willing to come in to give you a 50% reimbursable matching grant. So grant you don't have to pay back. So then negative shareholder fund doesn't matter. So if negative shareholder funds, still there are a lot of other options available. Basically, is you need to be very clear. You need the money for what purposes, and then I believe there are a lot of other options that you can explore even from the conventional bank. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chai. And maybe a little bit on the clean energy landscape for Malaysia, right? Mr. Koh, what do you see as the SMEs participation in this angle, and what do you see as the key benefits from them in adopting the energy solution?
All right. Yeah. I would say after this the pandemic, right? Actually, since 2020, what we found out, the global trend, right? There's a lot of people talking about carbon neutral. If you look around, last year, one of the biggest country who commit to carbon neutral by 2060, right? It is China, and followed by US is by 2050 will achieve zero carbon neutral, and also this Europe, which is by 2050 as well. So Malaysia also has already committed right to achieve the carbon neutral by 2050. So this is also what we see, like Blue Star Malaysia and also the rest of things, and also the different community. They're also asking for like ESG, compliance, and so on. So actually this, right, it will create another trend, which is if let's say local, there's a lot of Malaysia SME, right, would like to let's say be the vendor. I mean, their client is the overseas company, or their company, or their client is those companies who committed to carbon neutral. So they have to have some of this. I mean, whatever product that we provide to them, right, you have to have some of the carbon credit as well. So this will make us more competitive. So the question here will be how we can work on that. So what I will say, right, after we have all this change of landscaping, right, definitely like what Plus XG we are providing, solar solution is one of it. A smart energy solution is also one of it for people to save energy and reduce the carbon footprint. Yeah. So what they can benefit, I will say the easiest one, right, is right now, if we look into, I think what I really like is SJPP. The loan is helping a lot of businesses out there to capture a lot of business opportunity and also to stimulate the business growth. However, when we have all this growth, right, but right now, most of business owners out there are still facing one of the challenges, which is the rise of their raw material price. So in a lot of these companies, in our operation cost, is always come with a raw material price, and the other highest one is always the energy cost, right? So unfortunately, recently, TMB, they just raised their tariff rate again. So actually, we are here together with StanChart to help a lot of businesses out there to lower down the energy bill through solar. And also what we work closely with StanChart to provide this financing, it will be able to help you able to enjoy and also own the solar system in a really affordable rate. And one more thing here, which I would like to share with all the SME owners there, is right now the government, there's one incentive called Green Investment Tax Allowance. So as long as your company is making profit and you invest in solar technology, your investment capex, you are able to get a 25% of the tax deductions, and another 24% of tax deduction, and another 24% of the capital allowance. So in short, you'll be able to enjoy sort of like 48% of discount for whatever capital that you have invested, and come with a StanChart, this facility, and also our clean energy solution. So this is something that what we can see is we are able to help a lot of businesses out there to drop and also lower down their energy costs, and for them to lower down their OPEX, have more cash flow, and this will be the most direct way for everyone able to enjoy and also to benefit from the sustainable movement and also the change. Yeah. So this is some of the point of view from my side.
Thank you, Mr. Koh. And just now we hear some feedback from Aizat on the alternate financing availability from the tech companies, right? Aizat, would you like to also share a bit on how do SMEs benefit besides alternate financing from the e-commerce platforms?
Okay. I think these days digitalization is already core to all SMEs anyway. I strongly believe that you as an SME, you always to look where your customers are based at. Of course, I would like to promote Droppy as we're the leading B2B e-commerce platform, but we also understand that a lot of SMEs also have a different set of customers that generally a lot of other platforms might also be able to provide. One thing for sure is that at least in the e-commerce landscape in Malaysia, everyone generally have a different niche, and I think that's something is quite important for you, for SME, to pretty much to look where your customers are and then try to be digitally present over there. So going back to the customers' presence, right? I think people are also quite spoiled. When I say people, these are the consumers or your customers, right? Since nowadays everyone have a lot of some sort of like a favorite e-commerce platform that they go to. But with that said, also we still think that a lot of SMEs can benefit in they can benefit a lot from all this e-commerce platform. On top of my head, I think there are about 3 core benefits. So first one is to have a local and Southeast Asia or even global reach. So depending on the e-commerce platform that you'll be signing on, right? I think e-commerce sort of provide new opportunities because it breaks free from the limitation that you previously have. Back then, if let's say I own a retail store or even a distributor store, I can only sell to customers that are pretty much near me, right? I think with this new e-commerce, SMEs can pretty much sell the inventory and can or services within the platform reach itself. I think this is something that a lot of Malaysians are still trying to improve on. I think there are a lot of growth for us to try, especially if you're a local producer. There are a lot of platforms like Alibaba, even Droppy, also we can help sell to Indonesia and many others as well. Second thing, what SMEs can benefit is costs and time savings. Any e-commerce store usually requires some form of like any e-commerce store usually provides some form of like a complete automation, at least on your purchasing process. So like for Droppy, for example, right, we also have like inventory management software that any SME can use to manage their inventory stocks pretty much anywhere. We even have like invoicing, payment processing, hence it can actually reduce a lot of your man hours from there. I think one of the best use cases that we have is that some of the SMEs They actually use it to monitor where their stocks are based at, whether it's in their outlets or warehouse, and actually able to just sell to the customers directly. I think generally a lot of the traditional manufacturers or distributors, they tend to like call the people like, hey, bro, you got stocks. Huh? So that's where, and when they actually want to check, they usually have to look into their accounts. They need to ask a team member. But at least with a lot of this e-commerce platform, they can just look into their phone straight away and see which product, whether they actually have the stocks or they don't have. I think the third one is obviously cash flow and financing. I think since a lot of these SMEs, they need to try to manage their admin work. At least with e-commerce platform, you'll be eventually able to understand your cash flow better. And I think there are certain extent, there are also some platforms that allow you to automate a lot of paperwork or documentations to pretty much understand your business and finances better. I think just to share, to promote a bit, in fact, companies under like Droppy, right, our platform, we even can help you to apply for supply chain financing or invoice factoring in less than 10 minutes. Like what Puan Masliza mentioned earlier, I think most financial institutions will require you to have your P&L, your audited statement. So generally, at least on our platform, we already have those documents. And we even went to the extent to look into the business's historical purchases so that we can help and facilitate the banks to approve their loans even faster. Yeah, I think basically a lot of SMEs, they do need to go online. I think that's very critical these days. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Isaac. And maybe a question to Raj, right? What do you see coming up from the SMEs as they emerge out from the pandemic in terms of trends that they're actually resonating towards? Raj?
Thanks, Woon. Yeah. So a couple of points were already covered by the panelists, but just to summarize, there are, to my mind, there are three things which have come out as trends both during the pandemic and in the post-pandemic time, which we are looking at now. The first one is the one which Isaac just mentioned on the digitization part. So during 2018, 2019, digital or digitization used to be it's like a good to have, as in it would give you an edge over other businesses. But with the pandemic setting in, digitization or having a digital presence has become must have. So it's not a edge over something, but it is a necessary condition for your business to succeed. So that is one which we found. And what does, when I say digitization, what do I mean? One is as simple as your e-commerce presence on the website. That is the basic which you can get as a digital one. And it can also differ in degrees in terms of the integration, which again, Isaac spoke about, the inventory management, the payroll and HR management, the supply chain ecosystem. So that integration is one thing which different SMEs are adopting in different degrees. The second one is people like bank like ours, the way they're interacting with us is more digital. Instead of coming to the branches, they are now doing their transactions, collections and payments via the internet banking. So that is one. And the second one is the TRRF, which Mazliza and Mr. Chai has already covered. And the third one is the sustainability, which Mr. Ko has already covered. So these are the three trends which we have observed. And back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Raj. I think we pretty much covered a fair bit of what is relevant to the SME community, mainly from the angle of financing to the angle of reaching out new markets or how they actually come back in terms of their operating models. Now, maybe a general statement question posed to the panelists. If we were to ask you for a key message to send out to the SME community, what would that one message be for you to share out? Now, you can start with maybe with Mr. Chai from SME Corp.
Okay, thank you, Woon. I think if just one key message is, I think for all SMEs, I think you should stay strong and look at this as an opportunity. As everyone in the business knows, doing business is all about taking the opportunity that's given to you. Even though maybe from the from the outside, people thought, oh, this is very bad. COVID-19 pandemic actually caused everyone to actually has this we call it revenue loss lah, because the MCO imposed. If you are a mama store, you cannot do business for 3 months, means you will have a revenue loss of 3 months. And then when you open back, your customer, when they come back and have breakfast at your store, they won't order back the 3 months revenue gone. They won't order straight away, order 30 pieces of roti canai. They will still only order one. So however, this situation is not just you, it's everyone. So whoever who can actually take this opportunity to actually sort of like, we call it the soft reset of the economy, and maybe during the pandemic, last time the large company only take from certain suppliers, especially they will buy imports from other countries. But because of this pandemic situation, now they prefer to have a local supplier, and then the SME will have an opportunity to enter to their supply chain. So I think everyone should see it as an opportunity, and see how you can thrive and take it as a chance for you to actually do a bit of renewal, improve your business operation, adopt new practices, maybe, or even retrain your people. The biggest asset of any SME is always the people, and so that from this pandemic, you come out stronger, a better version of yourself lah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chai. Perhaps we can now hear from Puan Masliza. Puan Masliza.
Okay, for me, well, I hope to maybe just to share some of my observations, particularly in the last 2 years, because like I mentioned earlier, SGPP were also pushed in terms of having to process a higher volume of applications, particularly during the bad times. This is when government guarantee is most widely required and needed, especially for those companies that are now looking for the opportunity to not only recover but to expand your business, or even those companies that are just barely sustaining. I think my number one key important message is always monitor your financial position. Do not let your attention waver, in the sense that then your financial books will start to be in the reds. Do not put yourself in a position whereby you start being delinquent in your payment. That means you have MIA1, MIA2. These are payments that are delinquent, that is either late or there were no payments. This actually affects your records, and this will also affect your ability to be able to get the credit facility that you need when you need it. So do not wait until times are already bad. If you are already in a bad situation, don't make it worse. So one of the things I always say is that speak to your bankers if you need help in terms of any restructuring that you may need, and also any additional funding with Pemulih Government Guarantee Scheme, with the additional funding you may need to help you weather, at least in the very short, in the very near term. If you're already having problems, do not wait until the banks take action on you. That means they declare you as an NPL account, non-performing loan account. So once you're in that position, it's going to be very hard for you. So before you come to that situation, get as much assistance and help as you can. This also includes reaching out to agencies like AKPK, the credit counseling agency. So it's not just about for lost cases. It's also about those trying to solve their financial problems at that point in time. So my key point here is to always be very mindful of your financial position, so that you are able to then survive the next 12 or 18 months, because we really do not know how this pandemic is going to end up and what the government policies are going to be. But be assured that the government is aware of the plight that has happened to all the businesses in Malaysia as well. So I also want to hope that you will keep positive. So what does it mean by keep positive? It's an easy thing to say, but for entrepreneurs out there, myself and my marketing team, we get a lot of calls about situations from SMEs that is in different types of dire straits, especially during the pandemic. So normally what we say is, in terms of keeping positive, is like I mentioned, monitor your financial position and be doing something that you can control. So speaking to the people that are able to actually solve your problem, and also getting as much information that you can by joining talks like this. Like, so for example, like this kind of webinars will give you some information about the different types of funding and funding assistance that you can get. Also go to SME Corp. Mr. Chai, actually SME Corp, if I can just share, when I first took on my role in SGPP, SME Corp website was the first that I went through. So it was the first point where I could get information for different types of SMEs, from starting to funding to management of the company to talent and things like that. So always look out for information inside SME Corp as well. Yes, and do remember that we don't live in stagnant times. It's always, everything is new. They always say the word new norm. So keep up with innovating your business. We did a survey about, was it a year ago, about companies in the throes of the pandemic and how they varied in terms of how those could sustain and those that foresee that they cannot sustain. Those that foresee that they can sustain always put the answer that they had to change their business model and they had to innovate the types of services that they provided. So these are the things that we have to be able to look on, make sure that your team also is working on it so that you have chance of survival during this pandemic.
Thank you, Puan Masliza. Very good sharing, very insightful. And over to you, Mr. Koh. What is your thought to have that one note shared with the audience?
I would say to all the fellows SME business owner and also the entrepreneur, there's always a reason that why we start the business, right? So the quote that really I would like to share with everyone is a hard choice, easy life, and easy choice, hard life. So I would say right now in this period, we hope definitely this is an endemic, right? I mean, we are going to finish this very soon. However, during this period, right, it's really inspired a lot of us to have a lot of idea of how we shall keep moving forward, how we should like pivot, and this is the reason why you guys are here today. However, one of the things that really stop the people to move forward, right, is because of this decision. It could be something pretty difficult and pretty hard, and we just want to have some easy life right now. But after that, actually, we might suffer. So why not bite the bullet right now? Choose one of a hard choice right now, and we can enjoy a much easier life later on as a business owner. So that's from my side.
Well said, Mr. Koh. We will embrace that. Yes, we'll do it together. And Mr. Aizat, what is your thoughts to the SMEs?
Man, I think all the panelists really covered like all the points I had in my mind. But if anything, also I think for me, like yes, know your numbers are important. But I think you should really know your customers better as well. Customers are always the bloodline of your any business, right? And especially for small businesses, I think treating them right, giving them reason to come back, it's very critical. I think a lot of companies that we work with as well, initially they always had this mind where always try to find new customers nonstop, but then they don't really actually monitor and look into their retention rate. And I think that's something that is quite critical. It's a lot cheaper for you to invest in your existing customers than to find new customers. And I think during this period, if let's say you really need to monitor your cash flow and manage your cash flow better, I think that's the critical thing that you should really look into it. Yeah. Yeah, that's all on my side.
Yes, thank you very much, Aizat. And for Mr. Raj, what would your message be to the participants today?
Mine is a very simple one: go green and go digital. So when I say go green, what I mean is that because the trend or the necessity of going sustainable is here. And even Standard Chartered Bank, we are very strongly committed towards net zero by 2020, zero carbon emissions by 2050. So even SMEs should also look at getting to the green financing, right? So that they can also save cost at the same time saving the planet. And the second one is the digital part of it, because like I said, being in digital is no more an edge. It is a necessity. So in terms of your stock management or in terms of your e-commerce presence digitally, will go a long way for SMEs in showing their presence to the market. So that is it from me. Go green, go digital.
Great, Raj. And so allow me to try and put all the very good sharing from the 5 panelists into a couple of words. That will be probably to be aware that there's always opportunity. There are still plentiful opportunity out there. We have to be wary of ourselves to know what we are, our capabilities, be able to reach out and reach out early, like what Juan Masliza say, and embrace what has already been taken on as a new norm. Maybe from what Mr. Rush shared on going green, being sustainable, and going digitally strong in your adoption of business. Now, with that, I have also on screen now a QR code that you can actually click on to, which I have also using this to answer some of the questions earlier posted in the chat group, how to reach out to us. This is where you can have that engagement with us. We have that conversation to take this further after today. And I'm sure through BMCC, there will also be the rest of the angles for you to reach out in terms of our communication details or our contact details. So with that, thank you very much to the 5 panelists for having give your thoughts to the key points that we have shared on a while ago, and over back to our MC for today, Mizan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Woon. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, with that brings our webinar to an end. On behalf of the BMCC, we'd like to thank our panelists of speakers, Mr. Raj from Standard Chartered, Puan Masliza from SJPP, Mr. Chai from SME Corp, Mr. Aizat from Droppy, and Mr. Cole from Plus X Energy, and also our moderator as well, Mr. Woon from Standard Chartered. Thank you so much for participating in our webinar today, and to all the participants for joining us today. I hope you all find the sessions insightful and beneficial as well. Before we say our goodbyes, I would like to share on our upcoming Business Excellence Awards Gala Night 2022, which will take place at Sunway Resorts on 26 May. It'll be a night to recognize commerce and commemorate the best of UK and Malaysian companies across a range of categories. This year alone, we have 7 category awards up for grabs, and I'm happy to announce that nominations are now open. With that, the BMCC looks to your participation and presence at the awards Gala Night in May. Ladies and gentlemen, take care, stay safe, and have a wonderful week ahead. I thank you so much for your attention and your time. Goodbye.